Welcome back to another live episode of the Rich Auntie podcast. I'm your host, Kia, and favorite Rich Auntie. And today I'm really excited about what we're talking about. In fact, every week I'm excited about what we're talking about. Today it's excitement, but we're going to focus a lot on honesty today. So while it is a exciting topic, it's still one that will cause you to think as well. And that's what we're about here as well. We're not just here to, do the dance, but we're here to learn. We're here to grow. Sometimes we're here to have uncomfortable conversations. And so that's one of those today for many people. And I'm just really happy that we are having this conversation. I know Valentine's Day is right around the corner. And yes, we're going to be talking about love today in a sense. And so let's jump into it. All right. So have you ever, I don't know if you guys remember, some of you may be younger, some of you folks may be more seasoned, when we had a thing called like MapQuest, and I'm probably dating myself right now, but when we would print out the maps to get from place to place, right? And now we have GPS, which makes life so much easier. But there was also a time where none of these things existed. We had to figure out how to get from point A to point B, just using our memory and all of that stuff. Well, what we're talking about today in terms of love is kind of like that. When you don't have a map, when you don't have a GPS, and you're just figuring it out. You're figuring it out to the best of your ability. And it doesn't matter what age you are or what stage you are in your relationship. This is something I feel like we all go through at different stages. And sometimes we go through it more than once. And that's okay. That's just a part of the journey. And that's just a part of, building a life with someone. But what happens when you love someone you can't build with? Like, there seems to be no future, right? So today we're talking about when you love someone and you're feeling unsure about the future. The love is real, the effort is real, but the alignment isn't real. Like, there's no alignment there. And that gap is where the confusion happens and where the waiting happens, for things to happen. And that's a very dangerous place to be, within that gap of figuring it out. And so, this isn't a leave or stay conversation. I am not telling you to leave or stay with your significant other, okay? What I'm saying is we're going to have an honest conversation about what that looks like, because it's all sunshine and rainbows when you can build with someone, and that's great. But what happens when you can't? And I can tell you from personal experience, I've been there where, Josh and I, we could not build together at all. All right. And so I'm coming from a place of understanding and experience and what we've gone through as well. And so, we're talking about loving someone, but you can't quite build with them, and what it looks like when you do have alignment, because there is hope. All right. So let's talk about what that looks like for some people. So the love exists, but alignment doesn't. And that means like you genuinely love the person and you guys just want different things out of life. Like, you got together, everything was great, and you find out that y'all are moving in two completely different directions. And so, love is the emotional connection, but alignment is our shared direction. So you could genuinely have an emotional connection with someone, but you guys are not on the same path. And when alignment is missing, love alone ends up doing all of the heavy lifting. And I can tell you, love alone is not enough, because it's like, yes, you can love someone, but if you guys don't share the same path, if you are going in different directions, sometimes it's just not enough to keep you together. So let's talk about when effort is present, but the vision is missing. So they may show up in the relationship, they do the date nights, they do the flowers, the calls, and all of that stuff. But when you talk about the future, it's like, how did we get here? It's so vague. It's like nothing makes sense in that moment. And, you know, the effort is there. They're doing all of the great things for you, but there still isn't any future. And you know, many of us watch the movies, right? But this happens in real life where you have this couple and everything is going great and it's going wonderful. And then, you know, the woman most likely, you know, more times than the guy would say, like, where are we going with this? Like, where is this leading to? You know, like, are we just here having fun, or, you know, do we plan on making a future? So that person may be doing all of the amazing things for you. This is girls and guys. You know, that lady, she may be pulling out all of the stops, folding your laundry, and, you know, doing all of the wonderful things, but maybe there's not a future there, you know? And now let's talk about when the chemistry is strong, but the direction is still unclear. So connection is real. Let's say the attraction is real, but the chemistry, it doesn't tell you where you're going or how it feels right now, right? It only tells you like how you feel, but it doesn't give you direction. So chemistry alone isn't enough. You could have chemistry with a lot of people. There are many people we can all have chemistry with. Okay, we could go up to every 10, 20, 30 people, and it's like there can be something there. There could genuinely be some chemistry there. This is not the same as love, but what I'm saying is when you are in love with someone and you do have that chemistry, it's a great thing. It's a great feeling, but that's all it is. It's just a feeling. And without direction, like chemistry could just be a reason to stay stuck. Okay. And I know we don't have any kids here, but you know, sometimes the chemistry is off the charts. It's like, it's wonderful, it's great. You feel amazing. You know, you wake up every day and you go to sleep every night and you're like, you know, this is the person that I love doing things with. But that's just not enough. It's not enough when you're trying to build a life, build an empire, you know, build beyond the feelings, because feelings do fade. If you've been in a relationship long enough, feelings do fade. Now, can you get them back? Absolutely, as well. But what I'm saying is, you're not always going to feel the exact same way about that person as you felt when you first met them, or when you first got married, or when you first, you know, and sometimes it's actually a deeper feeling that you feel. It's a different kind of feeling that you feel. But what I'm saying is, all of this is just feelings. And so when you're building, you need to have more than just the chemistry aspect. Now let's talk about when you're growing, but you're not growing together. Now this was us, okay? When After I had my kids, like, obviously I was growing in the direction of motherhood, you know, doing my best to be a great mom, like figuring things out and stuff like that. And Josh was growing in a different way. Obviously, you know, being a dad too, but still, you know, it's like my growth slowed down in the direction of like building businesses and personal development and stuff like that, because I had these three little amazing humans that I had to tend to and nurture and care for, you know. So in terms of growth, it's not that sometimes that you're not growing, you're just growing in different directions as well. So that could happen. You can have where someone grows and someone doesn't, but you could also have where you both grow but in different directions. And what that does is, because you're growing in different direction, you can still be aligned, but not as aligned as you were. Okay, so that can present some tension, some confusion, some things that you need to work out. And that was the result of what we went through, just not being on the same path, even though, you know, we're still on the same path in terms of we want to raise a family and we want to do these things. But when you're so accustomed to being with someone right next to them, side by side, all the time, to going to being away from each other because you have different priorities, it does present some, you know, just some resistance and some confusion, and some things you have to work out. And so just understand that as you are evolving, as you're healing, that person may not be, or they may just be evolving in a different direction. But growth without togetherness, it slowly causes emotional distance. That's the part, the emotional distance of it all. And, even if you love the person, it's just emotionally, because you guys are not on that same path, it does cause, some emotional turmoil within your relationship. And so let's talk about when one person is planning and the other is coasting. So one of you are thinking about timelines, you're thinking about legacy, next steps, my especially my analytical people, like I'm like that. Like, we're always thinking about timelines and this and that, and it's just like step by step, step by step. And then the other person is just living in the present and hoping things will work out. Okay, if that's your relationship, I know it's tough because can you imagine if you are just going full speed ahead and your partner is there just cruising, just chilling, and don't get me wrong, I think that's okay in certain circumstances as well. I think everybody is different. This is not a one size fits all, because maybe you want your partner to coast, maybe you want and this is more when it comes to men. Maybe you want your lady to coast, because I can tell you, ain't no lady want no man to be coasting. Okay, if you are coasting, we have a problem. You should not be coasting, because at the end of the day, if you're the head, if you're the leader, if you're the person that is supposed to lead us in the direction, me and you can't be coasting. Like, and if it has to be one of us, it's gonna be the ladies. All right. But let me just say that, maybe you want your lady to coast. Maybe you want her to, just live in live her soft life. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But maybe you guys have an agreement where you're actually going to build something together, and maybe coasting isn't something that is for the time and season. So you do have that as well. I'm not saying that one is wrong and one is right. I'm saying, figure out what that is. But if it is a situation where you don't like the coasting, then a conversation needs to be had, because the imbalance turns love into pressure instead of partnership. And the last thing you want is a lot of pressure in your relationship, especially when it comes to, doing things. So let's talk about when you feel emotionally attached, but practically stuck. So your heart is invested, but your life can't move forward. So you're connected emotionally to this person, yet you're paused from a practical standpoint. So that tension often shows up with anxiety, resentment, quiet sadness. Like, these are maybe some of the emotions you feel because you feel like you can't move forward from a practical standpoint. All right. So let's talk about when love feels real, but the future feels completely like distant, or like you can't see the trees, in the fog, right? So you can see how much you care, but you can't see where the time is going. And when the future feels unclear and for too long, because it's okay if it's like temporarily, like things aren't certain, most people I feel can deal with that. But when it comes to a point where the future feels unclear for too long, and love starts to feel unsafe, that's the part where and this goes on both ends, whether you're a man or a woman, right? If the love that you feel starts to feel unsafe, it's like, you care about this person, but the part of it that makes you genuinely breathe easier and feel at peace, in a sense, is lacking. And it's not because they're a bad person, but that uncertainty erodes peace. As human beings, anytime we feel uncertain about something, it affects our peace. So we already feel uncertain about, let's say, careers, or uncertain about business, uncertain about all of these things. And now you're uncertain about your partner as well. you know, that's a lot of things to be uncertain about. Like, I think that, you know, you can get through the other stuff if you have someone that's on your side and by your side that you could genuinely say, okay, I know for sure, like, this here, what we have is real. And, you know, this is something like we're going to ride it out. And it's certainty in that. And because there's certainty in that, there's also peace in that as well. So let's talk about when you're staying in a relationship, but that staying requires shrinking or waiting. It's like, you know, to stay, you either have to lower your standards or you have to accept things that you don't want to accept. But it's all in the name of love because you so care about this person that you would put yourself down, or you would, you know, dim your light, or you would shrink yourself in order to appease this person. So that's what we're talking about. So you either do that or you delay your own desires. How many people, I should, you know, mostly women on this regard, but I'm sure men too. Actually, both. But you know, I can speak from a woman's standpoint because I understand that side of things a lot more. But when you delay your own hopes and your desires and your dreams because you think that, you know, this is worth doing that for. And sometimes it is. I'm not saying not the shrinking part, but sometimes you have to delay certain things if you're working as a team, you know, to get certain things done first and then do that. Like, I understand that aspect of things, but there's also times when you're in a relationship and it's not going to go, you can't build with this person. You could love them all you want, but it's not a situation where there's going to be a future of building. So you have to build on your own. So you don't have the time to be able to just sit there and wait and delay, you know, your process of what you need to do in order to get to the next level. And so, you know, waiting becomes the price of staying, you know, and that cost adds up over time. It's like residual income, but in a not so good way. It's like you're constantly putting your dreams and your goals aside, and year after year after year, you know, you look up and you say, like, where am I? Or you can't see that you've made any progress. And I was listening, I think it was Tony Robbins, yeah, the other day, and you know, someone asked him what does he feel happiness is, and he said progress. And I wholeheartedly agree because anytime I am progressing in any way, if I'm growing, if I'm learning, if I feel like I am elevating or, you know, becoming more of what God intended me to be, and more of what I want to be, that's when I'm most happiest. So imagine being in a relationship now and you feel like you can't grow or you feel like you have to delay things. Then imagine how that must feel for a lot of people, you know? And so you have to always ask yourself, am I loving the person for who they are, the person I'm with for who they are, or who I hope they will become, right? Am I loving them because of who they are today, or am I loving them based off what I think their potential is? And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. And I always, you know, to fall in love with potential is a dangerous thing. And I can say that now where I am now. But when you're young and when you don't have experience and when you feel the butterflies in your stomach and when you love so hard and you know, without any, and love should be free, right? It shouldn't be restrictive. It should be a beautiful, free, peaceful thing. But what I know today, if I had, let's say, well, I have sons, right? If I, like my kids, I wouldn't suggest they fall in love with potential. I would suggest they genuinely love that person where they are at that moment in time, because if you're falling in love with who you think this person can be, I don't feel like you ever fell in love with that person. because they're not the potential person. That's their future self. And it's not even their future self, it's the possibility of them being their future self, which they may never get to ever. They may never live up to your expectations of what you feel they should be. And so if you're falling in love with the idea of who you think they could be, or, I think they will be this, or then it's like you're setting yourself up. Because yes, people grow, people evolve, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be their path. There's so much life that could happen in between, and they may decide to disappoint you, and that's why you should love based off of where they are versus just basing it off of the person that is this perfect picture of who you feel they should be. I feel like if you love them, you should love them fully and wholly as they are in that exact moment. And so that's what I would say to, someone who is younger, knowing what I know now. And yes, people evolve and people change. And that's another topic. That's another topic for another day, okay? Because evolution happens and it's not always in the way that you think they will change. And everybody changes at some point in time. And you have to relearn them and learn to re-love them a lot of the times, because you're staring at a completely different person of who they were originally, right? And so get honest about where you're building towards. I would say definitely for my younger people who are my single people, I should say, who aren't married yet, get to know that person, like get honest with them. If this is someone that you see yourself building a life with, I always think counseling is good. If you are serious about this person, you should invest time in getting to know them on a deeper level before pulling the trigger or before making that step, because that's a big step forward. And when you get with that person, when you marry that person, that's a lifelong journey, if you want it to be. I know divorce is something that's happening every day, right? But I think you could avoid that with some planning. And I think even in times where you may grow and evolve, I think the important part is to choose someone that has a growth mindset. That's someone who is willing to grow. If you're willing to grow, you should be with someone that, and I'm not saying the potential, I'm saying who they are today, meaning are they someone that is open to growing, meaning are they someone that is already showing you that they are someone that is growing or wants to grow, not the potential of them in the future, but right now as they are, not after they read some books 5 years from now that they develop into that person. I'm talking about the today. Are they someone, if you give them a book today, will they read it? Look at the clues, pay attention to the signs of who they are today, because I feel like that will help, as well as you could also ask some questions, if you're what are you guys going to build towards? Because alignment doesn't start with goals. It really starts with the truth. It starts with the honesty. So having these conversations is so critical. So what kind of life are we trying to build is something you could ask, and just listen. You guys have a conversation about it over, date night and stuff like that. What does success look like for each of us? Because what I find with a lot of couples, including myself, and my husband, it's like we have different ideas of what success looks like for us individually. And then we have obviously as a family unit. But just because you partner with someone, just because you get with someone, it doesn't mean that your goals and dreams just dissipate. They don't just go away because you decided to come together with someone. So I think it's important to also understand what your partner, what they want out of life as well, and what success looks like for them. Because if you're just thinking about it from just our standpoint or your standpoint, then you're leaving out a critical piece of what does your partner want also. And what are we unwilling to sacrifice? There are some things that, is a non-negotiable. So you need to know those things. And hope begins with clarity, when clarity replaces the assumptions. So You don't want to assume these things about a person. Just ask them and hear what they say. So, another thing you can do to help with alignment is talk about timelines without pressure or avoidance. So, avoiding timelines does not protect love, okay, or does not protect the relationship. All it does is bring in a lot of confusion. So, I'm not talking about, these are not about demands or expectations or ultimatums, okay, but we're talking about awareness. Okay, what, not the some days, but what season are we in? So talking about the timelines is very important, because if you don't have a timeline for when you guys want to do certain things, then that's where everything is just up in the air. And you have no clue what direction you guys are going in, what direction this relationship is going in. Like, what are we building here? And then it's just confusion, and everybody's doing their own thing, and there's really no centered point around what it is that we're doing. So alignment grows when both people know what the clock means to the other person. Like, they understand the timelines. They understand that this person, they want to get a home by this point, or this person, they want to start this by this point. And yes, you can plan timelines and they may not work out exactly when, but I think it's still important to talk about it, because at least it gives you a goal to work towards, and also to help each other work towards those things as well. So, third thing that you can do to bring alignment into the relationship is move from intention to agreement. And I love this, because good intentions, they don't equal shared commitment. You know, they said the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You could have as many good intentions as you want, but it is not the same as a shared commitment. So I want to is different from I'm choosing to. That's a decision. Okay. You guys are making decisions together. Agreement sounds like decisions, not dreams. And so when you guys agree, that is where hope lives, and where you both can consent to the same future. Like, you guys can have an agreement, like, this is what we're doing, not this is what we want to do someday, or that would be nice. That sounds good to own a beach home in the Bahamas. You know, that sounds good to go on a family vacation every year. That sounds good to, you know, whatever that looks like. If you're just talking, if you're just thinking about it in your head and you're not expressing that to your partner, and you guys are not agreeing on it, that's the important part, is that you may have the intentions, but you have to have the agreement, and it has to be a shared agreement. So another thing we can do is align values before logistics. So before money, this are my single folks, before money, before marriage, before kids or business, values must match. You and that person should have the same values. Y'all should have the same value system. Because if you guys don't, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a lot of conflict, okay? A lot in the relationship, because what you value, they don't value. What they value, you don't value. And so your value systems have to be aligned before anything. That's what we call being equally yoked, right? Is understanding that, hey, we have the same value systems as well. So you want to know, how do we handle conflict if there's a conflict in the relationship? And I wish I did some of this. And like I said, I am speaking from now, who I am today versus who I was when I first got married, when I first met my husband. You know, I wish we had did some of these things. Like, yeah, we did some counseling, which was good, but I wish we had went deeper, because I feel like it would have saved us a lot of hurt and, you know, confusion and turmoil, and I guess just give us a smoother journey. But I'm grateful for what we've been through, because it made us better people, and it made us, you know, a stronger unit. But I do feel like, if, like, our sons, I feel like they should have these conversations with the women they plan to marry. And so, you know, how do we handle conflict if it's a conflict? And one thing that we developed when as we were in business, and we were like, you know, because in business you have different tensions. And so with us, it was unique, because we would go from our business relationship into our real relationship, like our marriage relationship, right? And it's sometimes it's like you step into the bedroom with the same hat you were wearing all day. So we would call it like business hat. And I don't even remember what the other one is because we do a lot of things together, but not as much as we used to. And it was like something where it was like we'd have to take our hat off when we came to the room to talk about like marriage stuff because we would drag everything from the business into the relationship all in one swoop. And man, I remember it was just like it was annoying, and it was just it was a hard time and a hard lesson, but I'm grateful that we did learn the lesson. So how do we handle conflicts? That was something that we implemented along the way because we realized that hey, we were getting into too much conflicts through business and our relationship because we spent so much time together. And so, maybe you could implement something, especially if you work with your partner closely every day and seeing them every day, then, it would be wise to come up with an idea of how you manage your conflict. So, what does responsibility look like? Having roles and understanding what those roles are is important. And how do we grow individually and together? So, value alignment, it creates long term safety. Once you guys have the same value system, once you can talk about these things openly and honestly, and you create a space where it is safe, then you could create a long term, I guess, safety net for you and your relationship, or where you genuinely feel like you can be safe with this person. And so, another thing we could do is build something small together on purpose. So maybe you're not building a large company, but build something together. I think every couple should try. Even if it doesn't work out, like even if you realize that maybe you guys building in a certain way is not for you, I think it's still important to try because you'll never know. Maybe you guys do it, really great, but start small, just something. Alignment isn't proven in conversation alone. It's in the doing, right? Plan something together, save towards something together, commit to a shared rhythm or ritual. Just build something together. It doesn't have to be a business. It could genuinely be you guys just planning a vacation together, or genuinely saving towards, I don't know, whatever you want to save towards together, but just build something. Small shared wins build trust as well, and also momentum. And another thing we could do is stop avoiding the hard conversations. Learn how to have them well. You're gonna have hard conversations. You're gonna get into it. That's just a part of being in a relationship. That's not even just marriage. Sometimes that's friendships and stuff like that as well. I said, if you never had an argument with your friends, right? It's just like if you never had an argument in your relationship, are we even really friends? Or, and I don't mean that you cuss each other out, right? I'm just saying a disagreement at least, because no two people are the same. And if you're not having disagreements, it's like, are we the same person? Because that you should probably be creeped out, right? If you go through a relationship and everything is yes, dear, yes, honey, we're that happy life, happy wife thing. I'm like, nah. Like, yes, happy wife, happy life. I agree. But, I love the one they say happy spouse, happy house, because it really does take both people, feeling happy as well, or, coming to an agreement where it is a safe environment. And so, don't avoid the hard conversations, but figure out how to do them really well, where you minimize the damage, where you don't say hurtful things to your partner, where you do your best to communicate what it is and how you feel, and genuinely do your best to listen as well to their issues and what they need and what they want. And speak without blame, because everyone wants to play the blame game. Oh my goodness. It's like sometimes you get into you get into it and it's a tit for tat. It's like, oh, you did this and you did that and I did that and all that. It's like, okay, look at yourself first and see what is it that you may have done to cause this issue or to add fuel to the fire. Like, what was your part to play? Because we all have a part to play. There is no argument or anything that happens and you didn't have a part. I would say there's no one that is, let me say, blameless, even though they would hold less blame because of their actions. But a lot of the times it's something with both people. And I think that it's important to not play the tit for tat or write a list of all the wrongs your partner did, but also try and figure out like what was your part to play, you know? So listen without defense, stay present even when it's uncomfortable. Alignment isn't an absence of tension. You're going to have tension. You've been with someone long enough. I promise you, you are going to have tension. And should you just throw them away because of that? Absolutely not, right? If you can't build with them, then yeah, I get that. I'm not saying that you should stay. I'm not saying that you should leave. We're now talking about how we could salvage the relationship, right? By bringing alignment into the relationship. And so it's the ability to move through together. That is what alignment is. Yes, to go through the tension, but to go through it together. Key word here is together, because when you're aligned, you are together, right? And the last thing you should do if you want to bring your alignment into your relationship is be willing to check your alignment regularly. You know, people grow, seasons change, like all of these things happen, but alignment is a practice. It's not a one-time talk. It's not we talk today and we're good for the next 10 years. Within that 10 years, you're going to evolve, you're going to grow, you're going to change, you know, sometimes mostly for the good, but you know, sometimes maybe not for the good, you know, but what I'm saying is you're going to go through some type of evolution, right? And even if you feel like that person is the exact same place, maybe, but it's the slight changes that sometimes you don't even notice as well. But the important part is be willing to have a conversation regularly, have a talk regularly. And it's better than not talking at all and everyone just doing their own thing. So revisit your goals, revisit your values, you know, and the direction you guys want to go in. Make room for evolution without resentment. You should want your partner to rise. You should want your partner to evolve, even if you are not evolving at the same pace. Like when I had our kids and when I was, you know, taking my time evolving into a mom, but taking my time evolving in other areas, you know, I was happy to see my husband evolve in the ways that he did. You know, I was happy to see him really step into his alignment and to his and what who God intended him to be. So you should genuinely want your partner to rise. And even if you guys are, maybe you're not going to partner up on certain things, the best thing you could do for them is be their greatest supporter and their cheerleader and speak words of affirmation and, you know, just, you know, pray for them, show them that you're there every step of the way, regardless, because you're not always going to do things together. Like there are going to be many things you do, especially as you evolve and you change. And as you start to step into your own self, you realize too that, man, I don't like doing this. I like doing this, you know, so you may move in a different direction. But I think the important part is that you guys always come together and you have a unified goal and you have something that you can work on together. Because if you don't, that's where that space happens. The emotional space, right? The space where it's confusion, you're not sure, you don't feel safe. Like there's a lot going on and you may not even know how to communicate it. You may just know what it feels like if you're ever in that space and you feel the emotional distance. It feels like a big gaping black hole sucking the life and air out of the entire relationship. So if you've ever felt it, you know what I mean. And so, the important part is that you guys show up as a unified front and figure out what that is that you want to do, and that you both have a mindset around growth and genuinely wanting to grow together. And so we talked about a lot today. We talked about what it looks like to love someone you can't build with, and also how you can bring alignment into that relationship. Whereas you could salvage that relationship. It's not too late just because you guys are, moving in different directions. And so loving someone you can't build with doesn't always mean you need to walk away. Sometimes it means you need to slow down and get honest and see if you are willing to choose the same future together. Sometimes you need to just take a step back and or have a conversation and really say, like, are we going to go continue this journey together? Is this something that we genuinely want? And if you are, alignment is something you can build. And when you build alignment together, you also build your relationship, and you start to build maybe in a different way, but you're building a life together. And that's what alignment does for you in the relationship. So I hope you guys got value today. Let me know, like what we're talking about. Let me know if you find value in our conversations. Let me know what you like, what are you interested in learning about, because I'm here to serve, and I love, the topics I choose. It's because a lot of the times it's from just personal experience and things that resonate with me. But I also want to know what resonates with you guys. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. This was another episode of the Rich Auntie podcast. You guys go ahead, go out and do amazing things and be blessed.